logical path for subtracting real numbers. This is the most challenging logical path because word subtracting is coming from arithmetic, but in algebra similar example will look differently because we have to use what we already know about multiplication, and then we will simplify into expression where we can combine real numbers. This is why it's better to use word combining real numbers instead of subtracting real numbers. And this is what we are going to practice on the next slides.
Algebraic reading and modeling can help us to understand the nature of our further actions. Let's talk about example number 1. We have one piece, and this is negative number 5. And second piece is negative 3 times positive 2. Now, if we combine these two pieces together, what we will have? We will have negative 5 and negative 3 times positive 2. We can simplify first multiplication because we have negative 3 times positive 2, which is negative 6. Negative 5 we will keep, and then we will have negative 5 and negative 6 is negative 11. Now I want us to see exact reading. Negative 5 and negative 3 times positive 2. That's very special word and. Second example. If you have one piece, just number negative 5, and second piece would be positive 3 times positive 2. If we combine these two pieces together, now we have negative 5 and positive 3 times 2. We can simplify because now multiplication is first. Positive 3 times positive 2. We have positive 6 and negative 5, which we had before. So now we can read this together. Negative 5 and positive 6 is positive 1. Now let's talk how to read this. Negative 5 and positive 3 times positive 2. Example number 3. We have negative 5 and then we have negative sign and parentheses and 2 within parentheses. Remember, we work out this piece, how to remove parentheses. We use magic number 1. So that will help us to read that particular piece. Negative 1 times positive 2. Okay, if we combine this together, then we will have negative 5 and negative 1 times positive 2. Now we can simplify because multiplication is first. We have to remove parentheses. Negative 1 times positive 2 will be negative 2. Negative 5 we have to keep, and we remove parentheses. So now we can negative 5 and negative 2 results is in negative 7. Let's talk how to read. Even you don't see this golden one, but you have to pretend that you do. So negative 5 and negative 1 times positive 2. And one more example. One piece just negative 5, second piece positive sign and then parentheses and 2. You remember, to remove parentheses we use magic number 1. Now we can read this piece as positive 1 times positive 2. If you combine them together, now we can read as negative 5 and positive 1 times positive 2. We can simplify because we want to remove parentheses. Means multiplication. Positive 1 times positive 2 would be positive 2, and negative 5 we have to keep. So now we have negative 5 and positive 2 is negative 3. Now let's talk one more time how to read this. Even though you don't see one and word and, but you have to read like negative 5 and positive 1 times positive 2. Word subtracting is coming from arithmetic, because if you have example number 1, 8 minus 4, it will be just 4. But in algebra, we can read this as positive 8 and negative 4 is positive 4. Example number 2. 8 minus 10 doesn't have any sense in arithmetic. In algebra, it will be positive 8 and negative 10 is negative 2. As you see, we don't have in algebra subtraction. We are adding positive and negative numbers. One more example. What we have? Negative 8 and negative 4 is negative 12. We are adding positive and negative numbers. And problem number 6. We have negative 8 and then we have a special situation because we have parentheses. And now we know how to remove parentheses using product rules. So now we know what to do. We have to remove parentheses first. Now let's work out example number 4. And we will use magic number 1. We remember how to remove parentheses. Now what we have? Negative 1 times negative 4. Negative times negative give us positive. 1 times 4 is 4. And first number we have to keep. As a result, now we have negative 8 and positive 4 is negative 4. One more example. Let's remove parentheses first using magic number 1s. Because when you're multiplying by 1, you don't change anything. You just change appearance. So now we know what to do. We have to remove parentheses. Negative 1 times negative 7. Negative times negative give us positive. 1 times 7, 7. Second parenthesis. Positive 1 times negative 3. Positive times negative give us negative 1 times 3 is 3. And first number we have to keep as it is. As a result, now we have negative 8 and positive 7 and negative 3 is negative 4. Next example. Algebraic approach. We have two negative mixed numbers. Negative 3 and 1/15 and negative 2 and 5/12. Before we will take any actions, let's convert into improper fraction. So the first one would be negative 46 over 15 and second will be negative 29 over 12. Now we have negative 46 15th and negative 29 12th. How can we add them? The least common denominator. We have to factor first denominator 15 into 3 times 5. We have to factor second denominator into 2 times 2 times 3, and then we have to compose the least common denominator, the lowest common denominator. We have to take first denominator 3 times 5 as it is and multiply by factors from the second denominator 2 times 2. As a result, we will have the least common denominator, the lowest common denominator, 60. In order to get 60 as a denominator, we have to multiply first fraction by 1, which is 4 over 4, and second fraction by 1, which is 5 over 5. As a result, now we have common denominator for both fractions, which is 60. Now let's work out numerator. Negative 46 times 4 would be negative 184, and negative 29 times 5 would be negative 145. And we can combine two negative numbers from numerator, and the result would be negative 329 over 60. We can keep it, or we can convert into mixed number, which is negative 5 and 29 over 60.